All right, beautiful people. Happy Wednesday. It is December the 29th, 2021, day 340 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 1008. All right, y'all. Today we're going to be reading 2 Maccabees 13 and 14, and then we're going to hop on over here to Walk of the Spirit, the Walk of Power, and read chapter 11, Levon, blessings. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's see. Pull this up. Right there. All right, beautiful people. Marie, shalom. All right, y'all. Audrey, Renee, shalom. A call for wholehearted commitment. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah, your God, commanded me to teach you. You must obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy, and you and your children and grandchildren must fear Yahuwah, your God, as long as you live. If you obey all his decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life. Listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you, and you will have many children in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as Yahuwah, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Listen, O Israel, listen. Yahuwah, our God, he is one God. And you must love Yahuwah, your God, with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I am giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're at home and when you're on the road, when you're going to bed and when you're getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Yahuwah, your God, will soon bring you into the land that he swore to give you when he made a vow to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is a land with large, prosperous cities that you did not build. The houses will be richly stocked with goods that you did not produce. You will draw water from cisterns you did not dig, and you will eat from vineyards and olive trees that you did not plant. When you have eaten your fill in this land, be careful not to forget Yahuwah, who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. You must fear Yahuwah, your God, and serve him. When you take an oath, you must only use his name. You must not worship any of the gods of the neighboring nations, for Yahuwah, your God, who lives among you, is a jealous God. His anger will flare up against you, and he will wipe you from the face of the earth. You must not test Yahuwah, your God, as you did when you complained at Massa. You must diligently obey the commands of Yahuwah, your God, all the laws and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in Yahuwah's sight, so all will go well with you. Then you will enter and occupy the good land that he swore to give to your ancestors. You will drive out all the enemies living in the land, just as Yahuwah said you would. In the future, your children will ask you, what is the meaning of these laws, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah our God has commanded us to obey? Then you must tell them, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt. But Yahuwah brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. Yahuwah did miraculous signs and wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt and Pharaoh and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land he had sworn to give to our ancestors. And Yahuwah our God commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear him, so that he can continue to bless us and preserve our lives as he has done to this day. For we will be counted as righteous when we obey all the commands Yahuwah our God has given to us. All right, y'all. I was looking at that as I was reading it. I started to see it in a different light, in the light of what I'm studying about bringing the body into balance and right and connecting to that source of power is like entering into that land flowing with milk and honey, right? And when you get there, don't start tripping. Because remember that path that you traveled to get here. Remember all that hard work and dedication you put in to get here. Don't start tripping when you get up here, right? You better act like you got some sense and do what's right when you get into this land of goodness. Enjoy everything that it has to offer. Things you didn't build out and created, a whole world that you have yet to see. Because Pharaoh is still afflicting you down there in Egypt in your lower nature. Satan, right? You can't beat these enemies, right? So we got to bring you up out of there. Yo, we're going to talk about that another day. As I was reading that, it was just kind of like, yo, that's crazy. Oh, wow. Look, y'all. The land of milk and honey. Hold up, y'all. Hold up. Yo. 13 or 14. Hold on, y'all. Okay, so let's hop right to it. Auntie, shalom, shalom. Belinda Brown. All right, y'all. 2nd Maccabees, chapter 13. Let me see. I think it was, what, 16 chapters? Yeah. No, I'm sorry, 15. 15. No, we just going to read the 2. So tomorrow when we read 15, we'll just start in the 3rd book of Maccabees and read like 15 and 1 from the next. Maybe we'll do 3. I don't know. I'll see when we get there. Every day having enough trouble of its own. All right, 2nd Maccabees chapter 13. Hold on. In the 149th year, it was told that Yehuda. In the 149th year, it was told Yehuda that Antiochus Eupator was coming with a great power into Yehuda, and with him Lysias his protector and ruler of his affairs, having either of them a Yavani power of footmen 110,000, and horsemen 5,300, and elephants 22, and 300 chariots armed with hooks. Menelaus also joined himself with them, and with great dissimulation encouraged Antiochus, not for the safeguard of the country, but because he thought to have been made governor. But the King of Kings moved Antiochus's mind against that wicked wretch, and Lysias informed the king that this man was the cause of all mischief, so that the king commanded to bring him unto Berea, and to put him to death, as the manner is in that place. Now there was in that place a tower of 50 cubits high, full of ashes, and it had a round instrument, which on every side hang down into the ashes. And whosoever was condemned of sacrilege, or had committed any other grievous crime, there did all men thrust him unto death. Such a death it happened that wicked man to die, not having so much as burial in the earth, and that most justly. For inasmuch as he had committed many sins about the altar, whose fire and ashes were holy, he received his death in ashes. Now the king came with a barbarous and haughty mind to do far worse to the Yahudim than had been done in his father's time, which things when Yehuda perceived, he commanded the multitude to call upon Yahuwah night and day, that if ever at any other time he would now also help them, being at the point to put from their Torah. Hold on, let me read that again. Which things when Yahuwah perceived, he commanded the multitude. I'm sorry, I said Yahuwah, it's Yehuda. Which things when Yehuda perceived, he commanded the multitude to call upon Yahuwah night and day, that if ever at any other time he would now also help them, being at the point to be put from their Torah, from their country, and from the holy temple, and that he would not suffer the people that had even now been but a little refreshed to be in subjection to the blasphemous nations. So when they had all done this together, and besought the merciful Yahuwah with weeping and fasting, and lying flat upon the ground 3 days long, Yehuda, having exhorted them, commanded they should be in a readiness, And Yehuda, being apart with the elders, determined before the king's host should enter into Yehuda and get the city, to go forth and try the matter and fight by the help of Yahuwah. So when he had committed all to the Creator of the world, and exhorted his soldiers to fight manfully, even unto death, for the Torah, that the temple, the city, the country, and the commonwealth he camped by Modim, and having given the watchword to them that were about him, victory is of Elohim. With the most valiant and choice young men, he went into the king's tent by night, and slew in the camp about 4,000 men, and the chiefest of the elephants, with all that were upon him. And at last they filled the camp with fear and tumult, and departed with good success. This was done in the break of day, because the protection of Yahuwah did help him. Now when the king had taken a taste of the manliness of the Yahudim, he went about to take the holds by policy, and marched toward Bet Sur, which was a stronghold of the Yahudim, but he was put to flight, failed, and loss of his men. For Yehuda had conveyed unto them that were in it such things as were necessary. But Rodokos, who was in the Yahudim's host, disclosed the secrets to the enemies. Therefore he was sought out, and when they had gotten him, they put him in prison. The king treated with them in Bet Sum the second time, gave his hand, took theirs, departed, fought with Yehuda, was overcome, heard that Philip, who was left over the affairs in Antioch, was desperately bent, confounded, entreated the Yahudim, submitted himself, and swore to all equal conditions, agreed with them, and offered sacrifice, honored the temple, and dealt kindly with the place, and accepted well of Yehuda Maccabee, made him principal governor from Akko unto Gerar, came to Akko. The people there were grieved for the covenants, for they stormed because they would make their covenants void. Lysias went up to the judgment seat, said as much as could be in defense of the cause, persuaded, pacified, made them well affected, and returned to Antioch. Thus it went touching the king's coming and departing. Jeezy Pete's, that was a real long sentence. There was like 2 sentences. Okay. Chapter 14. After 3 years was Yehuda informed that Demetrius, the son of Seleucus, having entered by the haven of Tripolis with a great power and navy, had taken the country and killed Antiochus and Lysias his protector. Now one Alcimus, who had been high priest and had defiled himself willfully in the times of their mingling with the other nations, seeing that by no means he could save himself, nor have any more access to the holy altar, came to King Demetrius in the 151st year, presenting unto him a crown of gold and a palm, and also of the bowls which were solemnly used in the temple. And so that day he held his peace. Howbeit, having gotten opportunity to further his foolish enterprise, and being called into counsel by Demetrius, and asked how the Yahudim stood affected, and what they intended, he answered thereunto, those of the Yahudim that he called Hasideans, whose captain is Yehuda Maccabee, nourish war and are seditious, and will not let the rest be in peace. Therefore I, being deprived of my ancestors' honor, my priesthood, am now come hither. First, truly, for the unfeigned care I have of things pertaining to the king. Secondly, even for that I intend the good of my own countrymen, for all our nation is no small misery through the unadvised dealing of them aforesaid. Wherefore, O king, seeing you know all these things, be careful for the country and our nation, which is pressed on every side, according to the clemency that you readily show unto all. For as long as Yehuda lives, it is not possible that the state should be quiet. This was no sooner spoken of him, But others of the king's friends, being maliciously set against Yehuda, did more incense Demetrius. And forthwith, calling Nicanor, who had been master of the elephants, and making him the governor over Yehuda, he sent him forth, commanding him to slay Yehuda and to scatter them that were with him, and to make Alcimus high priest of the great temple. Then the heathen that had fled out of Yehuda from Yehuda, Then the heathen that fled out of Yehuda from Yehuda came to Nicanor by flocks, thinking the harm and calamities of the Yahudim to be their welfare. Now when the Yahudim heard of Nicanor's coming, and that the heathen were up against them, they cast earth upon their heads, and made supplication to him that had established his people forever, and who always helps his portion with manifestation of his presence. So at the commandment of the captain, they removed straight ways from thence, and came near unto them at the town of Desu. Now Shimon, Yehuda's brother, had joined battle with Nicanor, but was somewhat discomfited through the sudden silence of his enemies. Nevertheless, Nicanor, hearing of the manliness of them that were with Yehuda, and the courageousness that they had to fight for their country, dared not to try the matter by the sword. Wherefore he sent Poseidonius, I screwed that name up, I'm sure I did, and Theodotus and Mattiyahu to make peace. So when they had taken long advisement thereupon, and the captain had made the multitude acquainted therewith, and it appeared that they were all of one mind, they consented to the covenants, and appointed a day to meet together by themselves. And when the day came, and stools were set for either of them, Ludus placed armed men ready in convenient places, lest some treachery should be suddenly practiced by the enemies. So they made a peaceable conference. Now Nicanor abode in Jerusalem, but did no hurt, but sent away the people that came flocking unto him. And he would not willingly have Yehuda out of his sight, for he loved the man from his heart. He prayed him also to take a woman, and to beget children. So he married, was quiet, and took part of this life. But Alcimus, perceiving the love that was betwixt them, and considering the covenants that were made, came to Demetrius and told him that Nicanor was not well affected toward the state, for that he had ordained Yehuda, a traitor to his realm, to be the king's successor. Then the king, being in a rage and provoked with the accusations of the most wicked man, wrote to Nicanor, signifying that he was much displeased with the covenants, and commanding him that he should send Yehuda Maccabee prisoner in all haste unto Antioch. When this came to Nicanor's hearing, he was much confounded in himself, and took it grievously that he should make void the articles which were agreed upon, the man being in no fault. But because there was no dealing against the king, he watched his time to accomplish this thing by policy. Notwithstanding, when Yehuda Maccabee saw that Nicanor began to be churlish unto him, and that he entreated him more roughly than he was wont, perceiving that such sour behavior came not of good, he gathered together not a few of his men, and withdrew himself from Nicanor. But the other, knowing that he was notable, prevented by Yehuda's policy, came into the great and holy temple, and commanded the priests that were offering their usual sacrifices to deliver him the man. And when they swore that they could not tell where the man was whom he sought, he stretched out his right hand toward the temple, and made an oath in this manner: If ye will not deliver me Yehuda as a prisoner, I will lay this temple of Elohim even to the ground, and I will break down the altar and erect a notable temple unto Bacchus. Nikki, greetings. Y'all remember the god Bacchus, right? Okay. If ye will not deliver me Yehuda as a prisoner, I will lay this temple of Elohim even to the ground, and I will break down the altar and erect a notable temple unto Bacchus. After these words he departed. Then the priests lifted up their hands towards heaven, and besought him that was ever a defender of their nation, saying in this manner: You, O Yahuwah, of all things, who have need of nothing, were pleased that the temple of your habitation should be among us. Therefore now, O holy Adonai of all holiness, keep this house ever undefiled, which lately was cleansed, and stop every unrighteous mouth. Now was there accused unto Nicanor, one Razes, one of the elders of Jerusalem, a lover of his countrymen, and a man of very good rapport, who for his kindness was called a father of the Yahudim. For in the former times, when they mingled not themselves with the other nations, he had been accused of Yahudism, and did boldly jeopardize his body and life with all vehemency for the belief of the Yahudim. So Nicanor, willing to declare the hate that he bore unto the Yahudim, sent above 500 men of war to take him, for he thought by taking him to do the Yahudim much hurt. Now when the multitude would have taken the tower and violently broken into the outer door, and bade that fire should be brought to burn it, he, being ready to be taken on every side, fell upon his sword, choosing rather to die manfully than to come into the hands of the wicked, and be abused otherwise than beseemed his noble birth. But missing his stroke through haste, the multitude also rushing within the doors, he ran boldly up to the wall and cast himself down manfully among the thickest of them. But they, quickly giving back, and a space being made, he fell down into the midst of the void place. Nevertheless, while there was yet breath within him, being inflamed with anger, he rose up, and though his blood gushed out like spouts of water, and his wounds were grievous, yet he ran through the midst of the throng, and standing upon a steep rock, when his blood was now quite gone, he plucked out his bowels, and taking them in both his hands, and cast them upon the throng, and calling upon Yahuwah of life and spirit to restore him those again. Thus he died. Whoo, cheesy Pete's. That's some craziness, right? Mom, shalom. Look, so it was almost like the rave parties where you got the concert going and stuff. Clearly they weren't having a concert, but he jumped into them thinking he was going to land right there in the thick of them. They saw him coming and moved out the way. He hit the ground and burst asunder, but he didn't die just yet, right? Oh my God, let me read that again. Listen. So Nicanor, willing to declare the hate that he bore unto the Yahudim, sent above 500 men of war to take him, for he thought that by taking him to do the Yahudim much hurt. Now when the multitude would have taken the tower and violently broken into the outer door, and bade that fire should be brought to burn it, he, being ready to be taken on every side, fell upon his sword, choosing rather to die manfully than to come into the hands of the wicked to be abused, otherwise than beseemed his noble birth. But missing his stroke through haste, the multitude also rushing within the doors, he ran boldly up to the wall, and cast himself down manfully among the thickest of them. But they quickly giving back, and a space being made, he fell down in the midst of the void place. Nevertheless, while there was yet breath within him, being inflamed with anger, he rose up, and though his blood gushed out like spouts of water, and his wounds were grievous, yet he ran through the midst of the throng, and standing upon a steep rock, when as his blood was now quite gone, he plucked out his bowels, and taking them in both his hands, and cast them upon the throng, and calling upon Yahuwah of life and spirit to restore him to those again. Thus he died. You know what? I might as well go ahead and read this last chapter because we're only like 25 minutes. Let's just go ahead and finish up this book. Last chapter, 2 Maccabees, chapter 15. But Nicanor, Hearing that Yehuda and his company were in the strong places about Shamaron, resolved without any danger to set upon them the Sabbath. Nevertheless, the Yahudim that were compelled to go with him said, O destroy not so cruelly and barbarously, but give honor to that day, which he that sees all things has honored with holiness above all other days. It says the Sabbath, man, just chill out. We can pick this up after the Sabbath, but rest. Don't violate this day. Then the most ungracious wretch demanded, if there were a mighty one in heaven that had commanded the Sabbath to be kept, hold on. Then the most ungracious wretch demanded, if there were a mighty one in heaven that had commanded the Sabbath to be kept. And when they said, there is in heaven a living Yahuwah and mighty who commanded the seventh day to be kept, then said the other, and I also am mighty upon the earth, and I command to take arms and to do the king's business. Yet he obtained not to have his wicked will done. So Nicanor, in exceeding pride and haughtiness, determined to set up a public monument of his victory over Yehuda and them that were with him. But Yehuda Maccabee had ever sure confidence that Yahuwah would help him. Wherefore he exhorted his people not to fear the coming of the heathen against them, but to remember the help which in former times they had received from heaven, and now to expect the victory and aid which should come unto them from El Shaddai. And so comforting them out of the Torah and the prophets, and withal putting them in mind of the battles that they won afore, he made them more cheerful. I'm going to read that again. Wherefore he exhorted his people not to fear the coming of the heathen against them, but to remember the help which in former times they had received from heaven, and now to expect the victory and aid which should come unto them from El Shaddai. And so comforting them out of the Torah and the prophets, and withal putting them in mind of the battles that they won afore, he made them more cheerful. And when he had stirred up their minds, he gave them their charge, showing them therewithal the falsehood of the heathen and the breach of oaths. Thus he armed every one of them, not so much with defense of shields and spears, as with comfortable and good words. And beside that, he told them a dream worthy to be believed, as if it had been so indeed, which did not a little rejoice them. And this was his vision, that Onyahu, who had been high priest, a virtuous and good man, revered in conversation, gentle in condition, well spoken also, and exercised from a child in all points of virtue, holding up his hands, prayed for the whole body of the Yahudim. This done in like manner, there appeared a man with gray hairs, and exceeding glorious, who was of a wonderful and excellent majesty. Then Onyahu answered, saying, This is a lover of the brethren, who prays much for the people and for the holy city, to wit, Jeremiah the prophet of Elohim. Whereupon Jeremiah, holding forth his right hand, gave to Yehuda a sword of gold, and in giving it spoke thus, Take this holy sword, a gift from Elohim, with the which you shall wound the adversaries. Thus being well comforted by the words of Yehuda, which were very good, and able to stir them up to valor, and to encourage the hearts of the young men, they determined not to pitch camp, but courageously to set upon them, and manfully try the matter by conflict, because the city and the sanctuary and the temple were in danger. For the care that they took for their women and their children, their brethren, and folks was in least account with them, but the greatest and principal fear was for the holy temple. Also, they that were in the city took not the least care, being troubled for the conflict abroad. And now, when as all look what should be the trial, and the enemies were already come near, and the army was set in array, and the beasts conveniently placed, and the horsemen set in wings, Yehuda Maccabee, seeing the coming of the multitude and the diverse preparations of armor, and the fierceness of the beasts, stretched out his hands toward heaven, and called upon Yahuwah that works wonders, knowing that victory comes not by arms, but even as it seems good to him, he gives it to such as are worthy. Therefore, in his prayer, he said after this manner, O Yahuwah, you did send your angel in the time of Yeketziyahu, king of Yehuda, and did slay in the host of the... I'm about to screw that word up and screw up this prayer. Hold on. Hold on. In the host of Sennacherib. What is Sennacherib? I forgot. Okay, let me start it over, y'all. Hold on. Let me just double check for other words if I mess this whole prayer up. All right, I was trying to be in character. Therefore, in his prayer, he said after this manner, O Yahuwah, you did send your angel in the time of Yeketziyahu, king of Yehuda, and did slay in the host of Sennacherib 184,500. Wherefore now also, O Yahuwah of heaven, send a good angel before us for a fear and dread unto them, and through the might of your arm, let those be stricken with terror that come against your holy people to blaspheme. And he ended thus. Then Nicanor and they that were with him came forward with the shofars and songs. But Yehuda and his company encountered the enemies with invocation and prayer, so that fighting with their hands and praying unto Elohim with their hearts, they slew no less than 35,000 men. For through the appearance of Elohim, they were greatly cheered. Now when the battle was done, returning again with joy, they knew that Nicanor lay dead in his harness. Then they made a great shout and a noise, praising El Shaddai in their own language. And Yehuda, who was ever the chief defender of the citizens, both in body and mind, and who continued his love towards his countrymen all his life, commanded to strike off Nicanor's head and his hand with his shoulder, and bring them unto Jerusalem. So when he was there and called them of his nation together and set the priests before the altar, he sent for them that were of the tower, and showed them vile Nicanor's head and the hand of that blasphemer, which with proud brags he had stretched out against the holy temple of El Shaddai. And when he had cut out the tongue of that wicked Nicanor, he commanded that they should give it by pieces unto the fowls, and hang up the reward of his madness before the temple. So every man prays toward the heaven. Hold on. So every man prays toward the heaven, the glorious Yahuwah, saying, Blessed be he that has kept his own place undefiled. He hanged also Nicanor's head upon the tower, an evident and manifest sign unto all the help of Yahuwah. And they ordained with all common decree, in no case to let that day pass without solemnity, but to celebrate the 30th day of the 12th month, in which the Aramaic tongue is called Adar, the day before Mordecai's day. Thus, when it with Nicanor, and from the time forth from the Ivarim, or the Hebrews, had the city in their power. And here will I make an end. And if I have done well, and is fitting... let me go back. Thus went it with Nicanor, and from that time forth the Hebrews had the city in their power. And here will I make an end. And if I have done well, and as is fitting the story, it is darn it, I keep screwing these words up. My eyes is going faster than my mouth. Hold on. I'm getting tongue-tied. Okay. It's like the last two verses. And if I have done well, and as is fitting the story, it is that which I desired. But if slenderly and meanly, it is that which I could attain unto. For as it is hurtful to drink wine or water alone, and as wine mingled with water is pleasant and delights the taste, even so speech finely framed delights the ears of them that read the story, and here shall be an end. Woo! I love the book of Maccabees, y'all. And that was the end of the second book of Maccabees. So you can kind of see, like, when you read these stories, it kind of get you hyped, right? It's like, yo, we can call on y'all. Like, all these things, right? It'll really get your faith pumped up, and you'll begin to wonder why wasn't this canonized, right? Because it will go against the status quo, and the people of y'all will get extremely hyped and be ready to tear down all this manner of filthiness and stuff that they got going on in the, what we would call today, the church house. Okay. All right, y'all. So let's hop on over here and pick up in the walk of the Spirit, the walk of power. All right, y'all. Chapter 11. All right, y'all. Remember, it starts with a word of prophecy, right? Okay. Oh, I'll come from a place within where you think that you have no strength. And I'll say to you, get up and try again. For even though you may be cast down from time to time, know this, my child, that you are not forsaken. Get up again and again and again, and my strength will be with you continually, and begin again and again and again. In a time when you think you will fall, you will not fall, you will stand. For I will come from a place within and give you strength, says the Spirit of grace, that you never knew you had. All right. Overcoming impasses in prayer. Yeah, 37 minutes, okay. God has filled me with compassion for people who start out all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in their commitment to pray in the Spirit, but then reach an impasse and stop praying before they enter into the glory on the other side. An impasse is a spiritual plateau or dry place that generally occurs just before God is ready to move you to a higher place in His Spirit. I want to help you understand the nature of an impasse because there is so much waiting for you in the realm of God if you will press on and in prayer. If you will press on in prayer, you will have to push past many impasses if you plan to persevere in prayer. The first usually being the temptation to fall out of prayer. The devil will try everything he can think of to get you out of prayer. But if the enemy doesn't succeed in that, he still won't totally give up. Instead, he will come from a new angle. He will try to deceive you any way he can to keep you from going higher in God. But just keep praying. Eventually, you will come to the place where you are so hungry for God that you won't have to make yourself pray. It will be your heart's desire. You will want to do whatever is necessary to draw closer to Him. I know about impasses from personal experience. Day after day, during my first year of ministry, I spent a certain amount of time praying in tongues. I was too stubborn to quit, and even though there were times when every cell in my body screamed in resistance, I have to admit it was hard for me to understand why something that was supposed to be so edifying was so hard to stick with. But since then, I have come to the understanding why so many people who start out praying in tongues with such fervency sometimes become discouraged and give up. The next section is entitled, Legalism and Condemnation Don't Come from God. The first reason, as we already discussed, is that people often look for spectacular changes in their outward circumstances and miss the miraculous work of the Holy Spirit taking place on the inside. Another reason is that many people view prayer as something they have to do to avoid condemnation rather than as a blessed time of fellowship with the Father that brings eternal changes. You see, the human creature is prone to legalism. There is nothing the devil likes more than to impose a set of legalistic rules on a person. Then when that person has a hard time keeping those rules, his confidence that God will move in his life is greatly shaken. Ooh, don't we know that, Hebrews? Greetings, Yah. Hold on. You spelled it with funny letters. Yeshayahu. Greetings. Let me give you a classic example. When a person finally commits to an early morning hour of prayer, he looks like a militant marching off to war. He has that look in his eyes that says, by golly, don't anyone try to stop me. But all he has to do is miss 1 or 2 early morning sessions of prayer, and then the devil is right there to tell him, that's it, you blew it. How many of us been there? More often than not, yeah. That's what happened to me during the first year of praying in tongues. The first impasse I encountered was falling out of prayer. My fleshly nature would flare up and I'd stop praying for a time. Then the devil would bring condemnation because I hadn't reported like a rigid soldier every day at a certain hour. Why is the devil able to put us under that kind of condemnation? Because in the back of our mind, we are often convinced that our physical effort of filling a certain cubicle of space in a certain location for a certain hour that pleases God. I read that again. Why is the devil able to put us under that kind of condemnation? Because in the back of our mind, we are often convinced that it is our physical effort of filling a certain cubicle of space in a certain location for a certain hour that pleases God. But God doesn't keep score based on the number of days you spent praying in tongues last month. He is interested in how much change has taken place in your life. Now, please don't get me wrong. Discipline and determination are essential ingredients in a godly life. But you will miss it, excuse me, if you base your relationship with God on whether or not you prayed yesterday. God doesn't slap you down with condemnation and take away your anointing because you missed 2 days of prayer. He's delighted in whatever fellowship you want to give him. He wants to enter into new places of change together with you, increasing the anointing on your life at every new level. I have learned that God fellowships with us according to the changes that take place in our lives through prayer. I'll read that again. I have learned that God fellowships with us according to the changes that take place in our lives through prayer. The more change, the more fellowship we can have with him. He isn't interested in legalism that causes us to report to an hour of prayer. You see, prayer was never meant to be a chore, but a precious time of transformation and fellowship. The next section is entitled, Fall in Love with Prayer. So in order for you and me to enjoy all the wonderful blessings that God has prepared for us, we must fall in love with prayer. But we can't do that until we understand that God isn't disgusted with us for all the well-meaning times we have started to pray and failed to finish. When I, as a new Christian, knowing that I should pray wasn't enough. Listening to preachers tell me that prayer was my obligation wasn't enough. Feeling ashamed and condemned at my lack of prayer wasn't enough. Only understanding the nature of God and falling in love with prayer became enough to make me pursue praying in tongues for personal edification. So let me help you understand what would get you past that point where so many people fail in prayer to a place in your spiritual walk where God can unrestrainedly pour out his blessings on you. I want you to fall in love with prayer, not because it's your legalistic duty, not because you will live under condemnation if you don't, but because it is the path that leads you to sharing special times of fellowship with your Heavenly Father that will change your life forever. The next section is entitled, What Causes an Impasse? We can become so disappointed when we give ourselves faithfully to a season of prayer, and then it appears as though God has done nothing to answer that prayer. But the truth is, God is incapable of letting us down. The breakdown occurs when we don't understand how God answers the mysteries we pray in tongues. So we stop praying before he can manifest his power in our external circumstances. At one time or another, many of my friends fell into that trap. They would get all excited after hearing a message on praying in the Holy Ghost and building themselves up on their most holy faith. Then they would jump headfirst into hours of praying every day. But after a few months of this kind of praying, they would hit an impasse. Instead of God working miracles in the circumstances that surrounded them, getting them out of debt, healing their bodies, and so forth, it seemed as if the opposite would take place. Many of them entered into a crisis mode, and their emotions went wild. Some of them had emotional fits of despair. Others displayed a rather weird side to their personality. Consequently, many of these same people went on to give praying in tongues a bad name. Still, others began to downplay the importance of tongues by preaching against it. You see, when the edification process begins to throw light on the fleshly deeds that are hidden in darkness, it illuminates not only those things that you want to get rid of, but the things that you don't. The Holy Spirit will pull these spiritual roadblocks out of the darkness and put them on display where you can see them more clearly, what you're dealing with. It's during these times that your emotions can sometimes go wild. Now let me interject something right here. Let me see if I can make sure I keep my spot so I know I'm at. Okay. So I don't think Trina here yet, but hers is a good example. She shared something with me the other day that happened to her. But okay, so some of you, if you've gotten to this point, you will notice that, I'm gonna use my sister. She's not here either, but I'm sure she won't mind me using her example. Okay, and I actually started sharing this with y'all like when we first started reading this book, but Bella got me sidetracked and I went and watched the video. I said, I never finished what I was about to tell them about my sister. Okay. So I'm going to tell y'all now. So when you start praying, and this started happening when we were doing our all nights of prayer together, right? Remember I was telling y'all like a couple years ago, I was doing an all night of prayer. We begin at midnight and we stop at 6 a.m. Right? So, but by the time I come out of prayer, I'm seeing things with my spiritual eyes, and I'm hearing the spirit. I'm hearing different things happening, right? So I'm spiritually heightened, right? But my sister seemed to be having the opposite thing happening to her. Now, mind you, I had probably gotten to that level because I at that point I would consider myself a little bit further in my walk and a little bit more diligent than what my sister was. So there was like some things I had bypassed already, just a little bit, to where she was just now running into it as she's getting started. So what happens, so she's an RN and she works at a hospital. So she would do the all-night of prayer and she would still get up and go to work the next day, right? So she'd be up all night praying, but it kind of gave her a strength that she realized she had. It kind of like infused her with like the supernatural rest that it was like a rest that she got while she was doing it. But she would be able to stay up and go to work. But anyway, and some nights when we did our all nights of prayer, she actually had to work. So while she was working her shift, she would be praying inwardly and stuff, right? Okay. So what began to happen to her was when she came out of the all night of prayer or doing prayer sessions or whatever, it seemed like all hell would break loose for her. And I'm like, girl, what? And it wasn't clicking with me at the moment on why this was happening. She said, girl, I'm about to stop praying. She said, because she said, everything will be going good. She said, then we'll do these all night of prayers. And she said, then the biggest start acting up at the job, all these things, the kids going crazy, all these things start happening. And she said, and it's always triggered by the all nights of prayer. I'm like, well, darn, Leisha. I'm like, is you sinning? So I'm walking through everything. I'm like, why is all hell breaking loose for you? But it seemed like I'm getting breakthrough. I'm like, and it stumped me. And I really didn't understand it until a few days ago when I began to think about it again, which is probably why Bella interrupted me, because I probably wouldn't have been able to give you the full thing, even though I shared the story with you, right? So I'm glad it came up today because I really just understood this. Okay, so what happens, and he's kind of talking about it a little bit when you hit these impasses, right? So some people may just kind of get bored and fall away. They don't see anything happening, but things will start going wrong. so it seems in your life. And if you're not aware of it, you will tend to kind of like back away, get scared, be like, wait a minute, because every time I do this, things start going haywire. This must be wrong. I must be doing something wrong, right? And then you run into the wrong teachings about the Kundalini, right? And that's what happened to me. And I'm like, something is definitely wrong. It's Kundalini. The church is teaching us. Oh my God, this, so still kind of young, didn't understand. Yo, look, that's what's happening to you now, Dana. Hey, I'm about to tell y'all what's going on. Look, Dana said, this is happening to me now. I asked y'all today, am I going to go crazy? What is going on? And she put the crying face. Okay, so here's what's happening. Okay, so let me use my sister. So she was like, girl, everything is going crazy. She said, I'm snapping off. She said, I don't know what she said. And it seemed like the prayer is making it worse. Prayer is supposed to be helping, but it seemed like it's making it worse. Okay, so here's what I realized. Just like it said, hold on. Listen, go back up. Listen. He says, you see, when the edification process begins to throw a light on the fleshly deeds that are hidden in the darkness, it illuminates not only those things that you want to get rid of, but the things that you don't. The Holy Spirit will pull these spiritual roadblocks out of the darkness and put them on display where you can see more clearly what you're dealing with. It's during these times that your emotions can sometimes go wild. Okay. So now, some family members here probably know my sister, Alicia, and she has a major anger problem. I ran into this. I know. We come from the same place, right? So we know that anger is deep down and it's a raging monster. So what's happening is, and it may not be anger with you, Dana, or anybody else that's probably already hitting that. Whatever is going on inside of you, we go into these prayer sessions with these thoughts of grandeur. Oh, yeah, I got this that needs to be taken care of. Yeah, I probably run my mouth a little bit too much. Like, these things about yourself. But what's happening is the things that we think y'all should be hitting first, we want him to hit. And so what happens is he tends to go for those things that are a little bit deeper. Where these things right here, your mouth, is a symptom of a deeper root thing that's going on inside of you. And he ain't really too much worried about your mouth, although other people be ready to take your head off because of your mouth. But it's something a little bit deeper that's causing that mouth to go out of control, and that's what Yah is after. So when you begin to pray in tongues, right, you be sitting there in your time of prayer and meditation, right, it begins to hit that. It hits that thing you can't see that you may not want to let go. It could be childhood traumas, different things that are affecting you that you don't want to talk about. You're scared to talk about with anybody. And also yesterday when I think it was Marie. It was Marie's question. Sometimes when we talk about praying in tongues and like that, you just all of a sudden you break down, you weeping. It's like your spirit begins weeping on the inside and you don't know why, especially when you're praying in tongues. That thing that you don't want to openly talk about, that's been hidden deep inside, that has really been tormenting your life, it begins to get hit, right? And your process is in the spirit of releasing it and giving it up. Healing is taking place. Yo, prayer is because my mouth is number one on my prayer list, Marie. Right? So what begins to happen, it seems that things is going out of control and now you getting pissed and that you being hit in that dark place, right? In that secret place, deep down in your shanana. And it's causing your mouth to go off and you thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I just got out of prayer. Oh, nobody will believe I just got out of prayer. And you start thinking about these things, you start condemning yourself. Oh man, I'm worse than what I thought. Bump this prayer seems like it's making it worse. But in all actuality, you're going through the surgical process and getting all the infection and stuff out. And sometimes I would say that the tongues is almost like a medicine, not really an anesthesia. It works in a really beautiful way, right? It deals with some of those deeper things. And yes, those things began to come up because some people began to get these flood of emotions and things that happen to them before and things that they have to deal with. You have to let that come up. You got to let it flow out of you like water, right? It has to come out. Otherwise, you can't go any higher. That can't be healed, right? Thank you, everybody in this house getting on my last nerve. I'm ready to go off. So what happened is tongues is almost kind of like this anesthesia, so to speak, but it doesn't, in some surgeries, doctors, they will give you anesthesia that will put you to sleep. But then there's an anesthesia where you don't fall asleep. It just kind of numbs the pain a little bit so they can get in there and get out, right? And then there are some times where there's just not enough time to give you anything. You're going to feel every bit of this pain. Y'all don't really want you to feel every bit of the pain. But sometimes the tongue sometimes is almost kind of like a little numbing agent, but it doesn't put you to sleep. It makes you fully aware of what's going on. Yeah, antibiotics. Thanks, Mom. It makes you fully aware what's going on, and it brings those things that are hidden to light, and you begin to see them about yourself. So they come bubbling up to the surface, right? But the crazy part, I feel like I keep getting drawn into speaking tongues, right? And you have to keep going. You have to let the process keep going. Like, you can't start it and stop it. Like if you learn over in the Eastern philosophy, how they teach you about this, they'll tell you, and they don't say the Holy Spirit, they say Kundalini, right? Which, until I really understood what Kundalini was, I'm like, okay, they talking about the Holy Spirit, right? Y'all working within that energy force that's coming up. And so what they tell you, they said once the process begin, you should keep going with it, because if you stop the process, you're gonna literally throw yourself into torment, right? And you're gonna kind of, I ain't gonna say go crazy, but in a way you're gonna kind of like go crazy, because now you get all this junk that's been bubbled up on the surface, and now it's like, what is going on? When you really should be just letting it flow out, or you just really letting it come up and flow out so that portion of you can be healed. It's like that garbage come up, and if we stop the process, it's like, give it all back, and you try and put it back in. Take the garbage and you put it back in, and you cause yourself to go crazy. You're making your own blood toxic. Yah is trying to bring it up so he can take it out. You seeing it come up, you like, oh shoot, and you try to put it back in, right? And it's like, I don't want to deal with that. Don't want to say. It's like you try to ignore that trash is all over your body, and it's like you got festering sores. Oh no, ain't nothing wrong with me. Now you walking right here looking crazy because you didn't finish the treatment. You stink. Everybody can see you stink. I.e., you start running off at the mouth, hollering at everybody. Everybody gonna see what in the world is wrong with you, right? So that's what's happening. This is feeling like malpractice to a certain degree. I'm feeling this. Yeah, so that's what's happening. So when you get there and when you start praying in tongues, the tongues will begin to go down into the crevices of your shanana. Shanana is another word that I like to use for spirit, right? It goes down deep within your spirit to pull out those things that aren't beneficial for your growth, right? And a lot of times it's past hurts, things we've experienced. It could be sexual trauma. It could be mama, daddy issues. It could be feelings of abandonment, if your parents have gotten separated or divorced, different things like that you don't realize been affecting you and how you operate in life. Those are the things that y'all tends to want to hit first, right? And those are the things that we tend not to want to deal with. Those things, the things deep in us that we don't want to deal with, that we don't want to talk about, that we don't want to share because it hurts too much. Those are the things that the tongue hit first, right? Which is probably why your tongue is one that's unknown to your mind. Because just imagine if you understood your tongues very early on, and say you had been through some sexual trauma and you translated your tongues. Yes, now the sexual trauma. Wait, what? Sexual trauma? Yeah, the sexual trauma, Father, here, go down, open this up, bring it to light. Why was this done? Like, that's what your tongues are dealing with, right? So it's probably good that you don't understand the tongue that you are given, right? But it hits that very thing. It speaks directly to that thing that's going on the inside of you, bypassing your mind where you can stop it, right? Where you can stop the process. But although it's bypassing your mind, at the beginning point, you can feel what's going on because you see it coming up. So that's how you know at whatever junction or whatever point that you're praying in tongues, that your tongues is probably revealing and communing with Yah. on the inside of you. So whatever you ready to snap off about or don't want to deal with that's coming up, you feeling these flood of emotions that you've experienced over life, maybe in relationships in childhood, between your parents and not having parents, all these things, feelings of being done wrong, all these things are coming up at the beginning stages, right? When you get past that impasse, right? It's like, when you serious about it. So the first thing you got to defeat is actually staying in there, right? And once you make the decision to stay in there, the next level of the game, or the next beast you have to beat, or the next level of Satan or set over in Egyptian theology or whatever, the next devil on the next level is dealing with this. So the next level, when we deal with this, either you're going to stay in and fight and let the process go, or you're going to back on up out of there and you're just going to kind of hang around the previous level that you just beat. And you just won't grow any from there, right? So in order to grow, you got to beat, as the church will call it, the next devil at the next level, which is inside of you, dealing with you and your own trauma. Every devil you're dealing with is your own personal issues in life. Those are the things you have to overcome, because the life force or the spirit of Yah cannot flow and connect to the source. You're literally through it's a healing process, and it's trying to connect you to source, i.e. the Kundalini rising, or the dragon rising, or the snake rising, or being filled with the Holy Spirit to overflowing. It's the same thing, but as it comes up, it has to push out the gunk. At every level, it has to flow out. So in the Eastern cultures, they teach you about the chakras, and in each chakra, it deals with something else regarding you, right? So the base, the root chakra, deals with just basic survival in life, having your all of your needs taken care of, which is why it's red, right? Think about it. The sexual nature, getting that under control, all that stuff is the base root chakra. Then you move up to the sacral chakra, right? Which is like under the navel, and it just kind of goes up, and then it goes up to the solar plexus, right? Which is above the navel. Then you move up to I'm sorry, did I get it wrong? It's the root, sacral, solar plexus. What's after that? It's the green one. It's the green one. It's the green one. So I forget it. But anyway, it's the green one, right? And then it's the blue one, which is the heart chakra, right? Oh, wait, did I get that wrong? The heart chakra. Then after the heart are dealing with the issues of the heart. Each chakra represents like different emotions going on the inside of you. And if you get somebody that teaches you wrong about it, you just think it's all type of mysticism and stuff like that, right? And so you just don't understand what's being taught to you. And dealing with the chakras is literally dealing with you, the inside of you, your life, everything about you, to bring it into perfect balance so you can connect to source, so your ears can open, right? And so once you get to the heart chakra, dealing with the matters of the heart and letting love guide you. Remember, it can go out in so many areas. The different cultures are teaching this in so many different ways, right? So you see, you probably don't, but those of you that kind of watch movies and see witches and stuff and warlocks, when they're casting spells, right? Because remember I told you, people try and tap into the spiritual realm illegally without going through the right process. The right process is actually cleansing yourself up, right? Going through each level, dealing with yourself at every level, cleansing it out. And by the time you get up here to the heart chakra, right, you done just dealt with yourself in the lower ones, the lower levels of life, and you get up here. Now it's time to actually work on love, not just love of yourself with the heart chakra, right? Loving your neighbor. Like the church said, love your neighbor, like do no harm. Our thing is to do no wrong, do no harm, right? So the different cultures say different things, but it's the same thing you're working on. This heart chakra. Let love lead you. Let love guide you, right? So after you work on this, the heart chakra, when you get the love in place, it should kind of really be easy to get the mouth in check, or that throat chakra, right? Because if you got a full lit, if your heart chakra has been cleansed and purified and it's shining bright blue, it's clear, like transparent, like a blue flowing crystal or whatever, meaning you're letting love guide you, it'll be easy to get a hold of your mouth or that throat, right? So then you probably might be dealing with some issues with your heart chakra. getting that throat under control, that mouth. Anybody dealing with that mouth, you got some issues going on in your heart if you can't get your mouth under control, right? I'm telling you, the teachings are amazing if you're taught about them right? And so once you get the mouth or the throat chakra under control, you get this under control and you're not killing everybody with the words that you speak, because words are truly power, right? When you understand that and understand the power that the mouth wields, or the throat chakra, and it helps you, and then like in just daily life, when you clear your throat chakra, you get that under control, you're better able to quit holding back. But when you choose not to hold back, your words flow out with wisdom and understanding, because you got your heart under control. So you're not going to speak down on people. You literally speak with understanding, and you speak with wisdom, and your words heal and they don't kill, right? So when you've lit your throat chakra, or your throat chakra is under control, what can happen now? Because you passed all these other levels and you can be trusted. Oh, you close to seeing the master, right? So what's next at the final level, not the final level, the level before you reach the dragon? Remember in the last dragon, remember that golden sigil? I mean, it was golden, but that golden dragon sigil that the master ripped off, right? That meant he had gotten his, like he was right here. He was at the crown chakra, right? He said, you knew without knowing. How did you know it was the blue arrow? All the other ones, he chopped up all the other arrows that was being thrown at him, right? He's learned, he's trained, and he's being efficient. All his life energy, all his prana, or the Holy Spirit filling up to overflowing. It's flowing out. It's washing all the filthiness, everything away. He has understanding. He's also, with the things that he's learned, he's now, I remember, because Bruce Leroy had his own dojo. He also was an instructor. So he was also now teaching the students that was coming to his class how to make it through the levels, right? How not to do this, how to keep your body, your spirit in alignment. Let love lead you. Peace and shelter is our life, right? No, peace is our shelter. Beauty and perfection, or love, let love lead you. Beauty and perfection is our life. We walk in holiness, all those things in every nation. If you look in every nation, if you understand the principles, you can see it happening in every nation. Every religion is trying to teach you, although they have their spins on it and they change the name of the characters, but everything is really to teach you about self, yourself, how to get this self under control so you can connect to the higher self, right? The higher self, which is a representation. The higher self is a representation of Yah, or the God state, or some people say Christ consciousness, or whatever. It's the same thing. When you get this under control, you can connect to Yah, and everything is clear. Nothing is being impeded. You can hear clearly, you can see clearly, and your life literally begins to just blossom in every way, right? But it doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, and it takes years to go through it. You gotta. Good morning, MP. I do. She said, listen, she said, good morning. You got a book on how this Kundalini and chakras, etc. is connected to Yahuwah and the Holy Spirit. Connected being that they're teaching you about the same thing that's happening on the inside of you. They're just using different terms. The church uses Holy Spirit. The Eastern nations use Kundalini. Most of them will use Kundalini. Some of them will use, they'll say the life force, the energy spirals on the inside of you. But it's all talking about the same thing, right? I do have a couple. There is one. I think it's in a lineup for us to read, and it's all the ones that's in a lineup to read. They're gonna go through all these steps that we're learning about in here. The walk of the Spirit, the walk of power, is going through the same principles, but you're just hearing it from different cultures. But you will begin to see, if you pay attention, you will begin to see that you'll begin to see that it's all talking about the same thing, and it's literally taking you through the same process, because you can't decide that you want to open up your third eye, or some people call it the third eye, be illuminated to see in the spirit, and you ain't got your base nature under control, like your root chakra, like just the basic thing. How you gonna be a vagabond? And people, that's what I was about to say. People who try and use shortcuts to do this, and they don't live a life of holiness and purity, let love lead them. In movies, you will see them when they're about to cast spells and stuff. They'll draw circles, right? They'll draw a circle, and then they'll draw like a pentagram or whatever it is inside of this circle. That circle is supposed to represent protection. They do this and they get inside. Some of them, they get inside of the circle. Other, they'll just do it, and then they'll do whatever magical, whatever it is. But they always draw this circle to do the spell within it, right? That should let you know they're shortcutting the process. They want to jump right to their results. So I need this to happen. So you got a spell for that, this. And that's what's happening. People who are using it on what the church will call witchcraft side is because they're trying to shortcut the growth process and just get what they want without going through the process. Because if you go through the right process, learning how to live a pure and holy life, do no harm to anybody, what's going to happen is you're going to realize, like they doing witchcraft where they're drawing circles around themselves to get certain things and pull it out the ether. You're going to realize that the ether or the spirit just opens to you, right? Like now it's like it's giving you a key. Holiness is a key to the spiritual realm. A pure and holy life is a key to where you ain't got to be learning spells and how to do this and okay, what's needed for this. You go get candles. I don't need candles. I am the candle, G. I am the candle, right? When you live a pure and holy life, your pure and holy life gives you authority to be there. Stick with me, MP. Stick with me. So don't listen. I'm going to use some words, right? That's why I said, if you just stay in class, you'll see where I'm going. So I will use some words that'll be off-putting to some people that the church tell you to stay away from, but I'm trying to teach you why, right? Don't just stay away from a pharaoh. The church said it's bad as witchcraft. We ain't going over that. But why? Why are they telling us that, right? I'm trying to break it down to you at the lowest common denominator, right? So you can see why, right? And it's not wrong that they tell you to stay away from it, because I would agree, stay away from it. But at least you should know why they're telling you. And that's what happens. And it get people screwed up and it get them curious. Oh, wow, but it's working though. It's working. Yes, it's working. But you should know why they should tell you to stay away from it that way. And that's what I'm trying to help you guys see. Why you should not shortcut the process and just try and get spells and do spells, because they will work, right? But it's a shortcut. If you go through this process, cleaning up your own life, you will be given access. You will be given the key to the house, right? And you can go in. You'll be able to spot things that's wrong, things that are out of place. And you have the authority to put them back in their place. And you ain't got to do no spells. My G, I am the spell. I am pure magic. I have authority to be here, right? And who gonna stop me? Woo! I love this. Look, I love this, y'all. So please stay in class. Stay in class, right? Just stay in class. Okay, so, but getting back to how all this started. So when my sister was praying in tongues, she said everything is going haywire. And I don't know why. And I thought prayer was supposed to be helping, right? It is. But before we can get this car actually moving, we have to deal with the issues under the hood. Girl, Dana, hey, black girl magic at another level, right? Look, we got to deal with the issues that's causing the car not to run, right? And your body, if you ever dream about cars, or you dream about houses, I want you to pay attention, because the cars represent you. It represents your life. Your house represents you. It represents your life. What's going on in your house? What's going on under the hood of your car? If you ever have dreams where you've been downgraded from a car to a bike, then you've been downgraded again from bike to a skateboard, and then you've been downgraded again from the skateboard to skates, then you walk in, my G. There is a problem going on, because you should be driving a car and your car shouldn't be sputtering. It should be a smooth ride, you know? Listen, Tell him to pay attention what's going on in his house. She said, oh my goodness, Devon had dreams about our old house for the past few days. Okay, old house, right? So that would, y'all move back into your old house. Okay, was the old house a bad place? You got to look at all the details of those dreams, right? Was the old house like a bad place? What was going on at the old house? Oh, it could be telling you there's a problem that's happened in the past that you have not dealt with. So we have to go back here. We got to go back here and we got to fix this, which is probably why he's going back to the old house. Like, that's what happened in my dreams. When I have dreams about a house I grew up in, right? But I understand now, back in that house, certain things would happen in this house. Not crazy or, abuse or anything, but there were certain things that I experienced as a little girl that happened when I was this age, when I lived at this house. Those dreams are pointing you back to a time. And if you pay attention, Yah is giving you the answer to your problem on what needs to be dealt with, right? And that's why dreams will ramp up during this time, especially if you add prayer to your if you add fasting to your prayer. When you're praying in tongues, you begin to do that, it'll begin to ramp up, right? How do you figure out what your dreams represent? When you have dreams, your dreams are specifically detailed to you, right? So some things are common across the board, right? That everybody can, cars definitely represent your spiritual body. Houses definitely represent your spiritual body, right? So you have to look at what's going on in the dream, because you were given a dream and you will be given the interpretation of your own dream, right? But you just have to understand, you have to know that it was given to you. So you should know that you will get the interpretation. Your dreams are there to help you, to lead you and guide you, right? Sometimes we can't hear by the time we woke, right? Because everything is going on. We can't hear because it's so busy. So a lot of time when we go to sleep, we have those dreams, right? Our mind is put to rest and our spirit is fully awake. And it goes through these cycles of things and experience dreams. And we hear the Spirit of Yah. He's giving us the answers to our problems and what's going on. And a lot of times we're none the wiser. We so dumb that we don't realize that we're getting the answer to what's going on in our life to help us move out of this current state that we're in, right? He had dinner with his mom, who is deceased, right? Who I can tell you, remember I told y'all after I had got sick, I started dreaming about, I didn't start. I always dreamt about dead people, right? But in the church, they tell you in Hebrew, don't talk to the dead, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, so I was aware of this in my dreams, right? I'm going to just give you a little nugget. You can take it how you want to, but let me just sit something out here so you can pay attention to your dreams next time when dead people show up, right? A lot of times when dead people show up, it's not like the movies where we don't know them. These dead peoples are family members, friends, what we would call ancestors. Ancestors are those who have lived before but have gone on into the unseen realm, right? They're ancestors. They're no longer amongst the living here in this realm where we live, so they can consider to be ancestors. Like my father, he passed away a few years ago. He's now considered one of my ancestors. My grandmother's considered one of my ancestors. My uncle, he's considered one of my ancestors. My aunt's one of my ancestors. They have already passed away, right? So that's the proper understanding of ancestor, right? Okay. So, but what I began to realize is, you guys, if you're aware, you can interact with your dreams. It's almost like this training ground, like the Matrix. You got this training program. Your dreams are like a training program that will benefit you in real life. So you can interact with your dreams. Like, try it. Next time you have it, maybe you will hear my voice. Maybe you will see me in your dream and tell you, hey, pay attention to what's going on. Interact with your dream. You can do that. If you're aware of it and you know you can do it, you can start doing it so you can get more benefit from your dreams and what Yahuwah is trying to show you that is going on in your life to help you, right? So coming through the church, don't talk to the dead. Don't talk to I'm not telling you to go talk to the dead, right? I ain't telling you to go hold seances and stuff, right? Calling up granddaddy. I ain't telling you to go do that because you're shortcutting. You take another shortcut to get some information. But when they come to you in your dreams, in my dreams, because of that teaching I got and what I read in scripture, and when I talk to myself, I'm like, Leisha, it seems like it's set out of place. It doesn't make sense. Now, I'm not arguing with Torah, but I know Torah has been screwed with. I'm like, but what I'm experiencing, I'm like, something is wrong. We got to figure out what's wrong, right? So just mind you, we're walking through the steps, right? Okay, so in my dreams, I would literally tell, like, because since my grandma passed, my grandma has been showing up in my dream. I'm like, how's you here, grandma? Like, seriously, in my dream, I be looking at I don't say nothing. And at a point in time, I wasn't saying anything to my grandma because in my dream, I took with me what I learned not to talk to the dead, right? So when my grandma would show up, I'm looking at her like, what you doing here? I didn't say it because I didn't want to talk to the dead. So she would be sitting there looking and she'd be following me around. And then my aunt would show up. And then my uncle who passed away when I was in high school would show up, like my Uncle Darnell. And it's like they dared to tell me something. And it's like, I'm ignoring you because I ain't supposed to be talking to the dead, right? So years were passing, and as more family members passed away, they would be showing up. I'm like, why am I dreaming about dead people? I wouldn't talk about it. I'm like, this is weird. Why am I dreaming about dead people? And I wouldn't talk about it. But after I got sick with COVID, it seemed to ramp up the dead people that were showing up in my dreams, right? And I was like, yo, listen, maybe the hospital gave, and I said this, I was like, maybe the hospital slipped me some type of medicine or something. I said, because I keep dreaming about dead people. It's like they won't leave me alone. And I wasn't just dreaming about my family members who passed away. I started dreaming about friends who passed away. They're showing up, and it's like they're trying to tell me something, but I am ignoring them. I am not supposed to be talking to the dead, but they'd be gathering around. It's like, girl, we got to tell you something. And I'm like, I ain't hearing it. Why is you in here? And so I wouldn't make them mad. It's just like they're like nonchalant, but they're looking. And then one particular dream, my grandma's trying to get my attention, like, Pam, I'm like, what, grandma? I ain't supposed to be talking to you. Like, seriously, in my dreams, I'm doing this. I'm like, and she's like, and behind my grandma, she's trying to get my attention, trying to tell me something, but I'm ignoring her because you're dead now. I ain't supposed to be talking to you. But what I realized about this particular dream, there was a whole scene playing behind my grandma, and she was trying to get my attention. She was like, girl, if you don't pay attention, look at what's going on. And so I began, it was like, pay attention to what's going on around me, right? So what was happening, the scene that was going on around my grandma, it was like she was inside of this real pretty ancient picture frame, right? Beautiful ancient picture frame. And she was dressed like, you know how you watch the older movies where the women are dressed really modest, but they're beautiful? They got on these long dresses, and some of them you see like it got like a bump in the back on the butt, make look like they butt bigger, but you clearly know it's probably some cushion or something there. But she didn't have all that. It was just it was like this blue, like this is pretty blue, maybe like a lapis lazuli type blue, like this electric type blue, and she had this on, and she even had on this pretty hat, and she was beautiful, right? There was no flaw in her body. And she was younger, but I could tell she was ancient, if that makes sense. She was older, but she looked like she wasn't a day over like 20 years old, right? You know how 20 years old, like everything is boom, pow, bang, and plays. You ain't got saggy breasts or nothing, everything. She was beautiful. Although her body wasn't showing, she was covered. Like the dress, it was covered. Everything was covered, but she was trying to get my attention, like pay attention to what's happening in this picture. And now in my dreams, I'm realizing every time they showed us like, you just sit over there and be quiet, right? And they would just kind of sit over there and they just kind of looking like waiting to tell me something, but I wouldn't engage in conversation because you can take things with you into the dream realm where it says, don't talk to the dead. So I would not talk to them. So, but I noticed in this picture, she said, getting my attention, like, and if anybody know my grandma, when she looking at you like, listen, silly, this is what I'm trying to say, but just plain this day, she made that face like pay attention to the picture because I wouldn't talk to her. She was like making a motion, pay attention to the picture. And what was happening in the picture, it was like 3 men, and they were in like they were like, maybe like, they were like movers, like you would hire somebody to move your furniture in and out your house. They were like in moving uniforms or whatever. And what they were doing, it was like this beautiful scene set up behind her. And what they were trying to do, because they realized that I was now paying attention, they was trying to move things out of the picture so I wouldn't see and I wouldn't catch on to it. And so they were moving fast. They were looking at me like, oh, she catching on. So they were moving stuff as fast as they could. And she was like, pay attention to what they're taking away. You know, so there are a few things that I caught, and I caught on to it at the tail end of it. But by this time, they had already removed so much from the picture that my grandma was trying to get my attention. Like, pay attention to this. You need this stuff. They're taking it away. You know, so there was a couple things that I saw, and they still went and took it away. It was like, oh, you ain't getting it. You shouldn't be seeing this. And it's like they're running out of the picture frame. So they grabbing stuff and they running out. It's like when they pass the frame of the picture, it's like they take it out and they run back in and grab other things, just until my grandma was standing there and everything behind her was gone, right? And it was like, I hope you caught the pieces that they moved out of this picture. You're going to need them. Go find them, right? And so when I had that dream, now I'm becoming more aware. I'm like, well, that didn't seem so bad. My grandma was trying to tell me something, right? So I'm like, but I ain't supposed to be talking to the dead, right? But now that I'm paying more attention to it, it's like they're showing up to help me. They're trying to show me things like when my dad would show up in my dreams, right? It's like he's trying to help me. Stay with me, y'all. I'm just trying to tell you what my dreams and what I began to notice about my dreams when people in my family passed away. It's like maybe there's something going on in my life, and my dad would show up, right? And so now I know the life my dad lived. My dad actually wrote a book that I have a copy of that he never published before he passed away. But in this book was some very, very intimate details about his life and some of the things that he had done, right? So after I read this was after my dad got really sick, and I found, I'm like, Daddy, you wrote a book? You know, and so he emailed me a copy of it, you know, so I got to actually print it out, and I will go through this. And as I'm reading through the book and thinking about my dad's life and even how he died, I'm like, oh, I see where this started, right? Literally my dad's entire memoir, things that most people probably don't know about his life, even down to, you know, his own dad and everything, things like that in the book. Now I can see. So now that I'm aware of some of the information, like when my dad would show up in my dreams, and my dad passed away in 2017, right? So it's like if there's something that's going on, he may point out something, although I'm still not talking to him yet in my dream, because I'm still like this whole don't talk to the dead. But it seemed like they're there to help, to give me some information, like, remember what happened to me. Don't go in that direction. Don't do that. That is not going to end well for you. You know, so now I'm paying more attention to this. I'm like, well, shoot. Well, why is this in here that say don't talk to the dead? And I don't know even that, but I'm thinking about my dreams and what's happening and the spiritual significance of it. And I'm like, well, oh, shoot. I'm glad I took that bit of information that I got from my dream, because that could have ended badly, right? So it's all these things that I'm learning. I'm thinking about my grandma and the things that was taken out of the picture, and it's like, you need those pieces that were taken away. So I think about it here, how we're taught in the West, and things that they have taken away or may not explain to us like they should, to where we can get it, but like, oh, okay, I understand why you say not to do that. Yeah, don't go try and conjure up the dead, right? Like doing this, because that might not be the way you need to address that situation. Because if people going to seances to conjure up dead people, right, to get answers about their life, and a lot of time they going to conjure up somebody in their family that they knew to get answers to a problem, right? So remember how when we say we're praying in tongues, it's a tongue that we don't understand. It bypasses our mind, and we go into prayer thinking, Lord, I need you to help me with this right here, and he looking at you just giggling. You think you need help with this, but you really need help with this, right? So that's like going to seances and ask people to conjure up, hey, I need help with this, can you tell me, granddaddy, what I need to do, when in all actuality that information right there, you're trying to take a shortcut. We will show you what you need to do if you go through the right process. Don't go try to call up the dead and have them come to you to give you information. You're going to find this out. This information that you're going to find out, you're going to find it out going through the proper process of being cleansed and praying in tongues or meditation, whatever you want to turn to, wherever you at across the world. They call it something different, but I'm telling you, it's the same thing. It's going to take you through the same process, right? So please stay with me. Please stay with me. A lot of people say I just had a dream about a deceased loved one last night, Joy said. I be having conversations with them in my dream. I mean, I would think about it when you wake up. Okay, what were we talking about? Like, seriously, give some thought to it when they show up, when people have passed away. Give some thought to it. I'm not saying go worship the dead as, I'm not saying any of that stuff. So please do not take it as that, because somebody will try and take my words and twist them. And that is not what I'm talking about. Although that is a thing, I'm not telling you to go do that, right? Don't be setting up altars to your dead ancestors. You're shortcutting people. I'm telling you, you don't need to do that, my G. You are the altar. You are the candle. Love will be your circle of protection, right? It gives you authority into this realm. I do have some books, Impasse. I will present them. Some of them I'm not just going to give to you. I have to present them in a line so you can understand. I don't want to be found guilty of what the church do. Just stay away from this right here and not show you. So before I give you the keys to the car, I'm going to teach you how to drive the car. I'm going to ride with you a little bit, and then I'll let you go. You're thoroughly trained. So I'm kind of using that approach with some of these things. Some I just don't want to put out there. A couple I gave to you, the next ones, because they're in line and it's okay. But some ones that's coming after that, there's some people just going to pop in because of the title, and they're going to go pull some of these things, and they might hurt themselves, right? So I'm just trying to take us through the proper channels, people. So stick with me. Stay in class, okay? I ain't trying to lead y'all to go worship the dead, worship the ancestors, but what I'm trying to give you a proper understanding of what's happening, right? So, okay. Hold on. Let me finish this, y'all. Okay, so I think I said it. So what's happening? Go back to my original thing. I keep saying that. So when you get to this impasse in prayer, or once you get past the impasse, when you get to the next level and things start coming up, or you start having these dreams where demon figures are showing up, different things, you being attacked, it's giving you an indication of something that you're afraid of, because you have to deal with fear as well. And those dreams, when you start getting those type of scary dreams, you being chased, you have recurring dreams about being chased through the house. You got dark figures showing up and you're running from the dark figures, or you waking yourself up from your dream because you don't want to see what's going to happen next. Those are fears within you that need to be dealt with. You can be interactive within your dreams. When you find yourself in that place again, stop running. In my dream, it was a lion running through a house constantly. The house would get bigger because I wouldn't deal with this lion that was chasing me. So every time I turned the corner, there was a trap door in the house, and I dropped myself through the trap door, and it would put me ahead just a little bit of the lion, and the lion would find me again. So I'm out of breath, running through this house for years. I had this recurring dream about being chased through the house by a lion, a recurring dream about this man chasing me down a dark street, chasing me in a hoodie and stuff, trying to catch me, until I turned around and faced my demon, faced this lion, faced this man. Why are you chasing me? Right? There's another dream I had with the same thing, a recurring dream. I call it a familiar spirit dream. When I see two of somebody in my dream, it alerts me. It may not be called that, but to me, how I recognize it, I call it a familiar spirit dream, meaning some spirit that's familiar to my family is showing up again, and I need to deal with it. Right? So let me share. Look, hold on. I know it like an hour and a half, but let me just share this one with y'all. So I had another one of these dreams a couple nights ago, and I'm like, there go a familiar spirit dream again. But this time, it was a familiar spirit, and it was using my daughter, right? It was using Bella. So, and Bella is not a twin, right? So in my dream, it looked like Bella was twin. So I knew one was the real Bella, and one was a demon spirit, or one was like mimicking her to try to trip me up, right? And so when I realized it, I'm like, one of you are not my daughter. So in my dream, I'm thinking about what, baby?
I'm actually dancing on this treadmill.
You're actually dancing on the treadmill? Y'all better be careful. Don't be playing on my treadmill.
No, I'm not. I'm just singing in this dance.
Okay. And here she come walking in the room. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, how can I figure out which one is not the real Bella? So I figured I would use love, right? And so in my dream, I asked both of the figures, same height, same look, same outfit, everything. I'm trying to figure out which is the real Bella so I can deal with the culprit, right? And so I said, Bella, yes, mommy. And I'm like, there's something out of the Twilight Zone. Do you love me? And one of the Bellas said, no, and started giggling, right? But I knew that was Bella. She was it was my real Bella who said no, right? And she started giggling, and the giggling part kind of gave her away. When she broke it, she said no, and she giggled. You know how you go play with your children and you tickling them and you ask them something, it's like no, and yeah, you do, one of those type of things. And it was that type of laugh that I recognized about her. And when she said no and she giggled, and I immediately honed in on the other one that was straight faced and staring at me. And I got down, and Bella, I said, come here, baby. And I gave my real Bella a hug and sent her out the room. And so I got down face to face with this other one. Normally it's like, oh, you mimicking somebody. In my dreams, I would take off running because I'm like, one of y'all is a demon. The real one just gonna follow me when I run, right? But that would never happen. So, but this time I understood. In my dream, I understood what it was, right? The better you get at, the better you'll get at not manipulating, but interacting with your dreams to get answers out of them. So I hugged her. And I kind of like pushed her out the room, and I got down like on my hands and knees, and I looked, not on my hands and knees, but kind of like squat down, and I looked at it face to face. And when I squatted down, I could tell it was shrinking, and it was changing into another form, and it kind of gave me like this little sly laugh. I'm like, who are you? And it looked at me and gave me this little sly laugh, but at this time it had got real skinny and face kind of sunken in, and it looked at me and said, you want me to show you my real form? And I thought in my head, in the dream, in my head, I'm like, no. I said, no. I said, you better not show your form to my daughter either. And then I backed myself out the dream and woke up like, oh, holy crap. This was literally just the other night, y'all. I woke my husband. I'm like, babe, give me the remote. I had to cut on the TV because it was dark in the room, right? Because I didn't know what was going to happen next. And I know I'm graduating and things will manifest themselves. So I'm like, I'm just not tonight. I don't want to see nothing real time tonight, right? The dream was enough to take in. I'm like, okay. So now I'm in the process. I'm like, okay, what is this particular thing that's been following my family, right? And, so when those things are shown to you, you have to deal with them. Because if you don't, you're going to find out that what the church calls generational curses is going to kick in. And it's going to follow the next generation because you didn't deal with it, right? And if you don't deal with it, you don't have the power and understanding of wisdom to teach the children, the generations after you, how to deal with it and how to defeat it. So if you allow drinking or whatever to overcome you and you never get that right in your life, the next generation may not be all of your children, but somebody's going to deal with that. And you don't have the power to help them overcome it because you chose not to deal with it. And God forbid if you go to your grave and they don't have any help, right? Now they got to go through, now they're suffering for the sins of their father and their current generation because now they've taken on the sins of their father, right? And now with the sins of the father or the mother, now they're dealing with their own sins, joining into this, deciding to do it, and the problems that's going to arise in their current generation, right? So now the sins of the father and the mother are affecting the children because the father or the mother decided not to deal with it. Break the ties so you can teach your children how to stay free from it, how to recognize it coming, how to identify the enemy. When you identify the enemy, you can strip him of all his power, right? But if we don't deal with it, if we run from it, me running from things in my dream, and then my father passing away and knowing some of the things he struggled with me, he's showing up, Baby, don't go that route. Right? And I don't want to talk to daddy because I ain't supposed to talk to the dead. But daddy is showing up to let you know this is not the road you want to take. Look at what happened to me in my life, right? I got intimate details of what my dad went through that not a lot of people know, right? So it's these type of things. When you begin to pray in tongues, you begin to spend this time in prayer and meditation, wisdom begins to come to you, right? And a lot of times you don't get wisdom for everybody else. You get wisdom for your life. When you get wisdom for your life, then you'll be able to help the generation that comes after you. But if you can't get this under control, you always think you got a word from the Lord for you, and I got a word for the Lord from the Lord for you, and for you, you're missing the whole big picture, you know? So, yeah. So, I did not expect to go that long. Let me see how much of this we got left. Hold on. What causes the impasses? Y'all. Oh. We definitely, y'all, I'm going to have to break this up today. Oh, this is a long chapter. Yo. Where we at? I probably should just stop it right here. This is long. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's what we're going to do. We're just going to pause right here, y'all, because this chapter 11, is extremely long. But I wanted to share some of those things with you all as we kind of hit them, you know, while we're reading it together. I did want to keep each chapter in one video, but it's going to be impossible today. In this video, we already an hour and 40 minutes. It's definitely, it's going to be almost 3 hours. I don't want to do that. Y'all got to go to work, you know, and, you know, so just, we'll finish this tomorrow. Yes, baby girl.
Guess what?
I'm going to mark my place in here.
Watch this.
I see. Hold on. Okay, so what we'll do, I'll pause. I'm going to highlight this here in my book. And Nikki, you're welcome. She said this was really good. I don't know. Okay, let me highlight this here because it's my whatchamacallit. And tomorrow we'll just pick it back up right here at the section at, it's called What Causes an Impasse.
Mom,
Okay. Okay.
I don't have any more.
We'll start it right here.
Stop.
Okay. What Causes an Impasse is where we'll pick it back up in chapter 11 tomorrow. All right, y'all. So I hope this was helpful. I know sometimes I can get long-winded telling my stories, but as we go through it, I think it's needful because I talked to some people and they share with me about different things, and I'm like, okay, I know what that is, right? So I figure as we read it together, I know it's going to take a little longer, but if I share some of my personal experiences that happen when I run into these different things, that might help you. It may not be your same exact experience, because your experience is tailored to you, but maybe you can see the wisdom in what I did and how I handled certain things at certain levels, and also with sharing different stories that people share with me when they got to certain levels. So, all right, y'all. You're welcome, Joy. You're welcome. All right, beautiful people. So we're just going to pause right here. Today it is Wednesday, December 29, 2021, day 340 of year 3 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 1008. We read the rest of Maccabees. We read the rest of 2nd Maccabees, chapter 13, 14, and 15. And we read the first couple pages of chapter 11 of Walk of the Spirit, the Walk of Power. You're welcome, Marie. All right, so Bella, we're going to go ahead and do this blessing, y'all. All right.
Mom, I'm about to eat it.
You about to eat it? So you don't want to do the blessing today?
I am.
You am. Okay. Hold on. All right, so I hope I didn't freak y'all out about the whole dead people portion, right? I hope that was helpful. I hope y'all was trying to get what I was saying, right? Don't go worshiping the ancestors. Don't go worshiping the dead. Don't try and conjure them up, right? Because when it's wisdom that they need to give to you, they're going to show up, right? Just be mindful of those things, right? And I know it may kind of be scary. You know, everybody not scared. Some of y'all have full engaged conversations with previous family members, but those are keys that are really going to help your life. It really is. Now, I'm just now understanding that why I've been spending all these years. Okay. Why I've been spending all these years avoiding the wisdom they trying to give to me. Girl, pay attention. Like my grandma, listen here, silly. Okay, y'all. The blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us presenting gifts, and he will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all. You're welcome, Dana. She said great info. Thanks. You're welcome, everybody. All right, y'all. All right. Oh, definitely, Audrey. She said, thank you. These teachings are really helpful, especially when you know you're not going through these things alone.
Mommy.
Yes and amen. All right, y'all. Go ahead and end it, Tootie Baby. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning.
You don't say it yet.
Oh, did you have something to say?
Mm-hmm.
No, you just want to sit here and look. Okay, I see y'all back here tomorrow morning. Hey, what are you trying to do, Booty? What you want to do? Don't say anything. You just want to bid the people farewell without saying goodbye. See y'all back here tomorrow morning, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard